Milo riot in Berkeley, and SF Oakland and Bay Area protests. Hey, it's Prince of Queens, and everybody is talking about the riot that happened at the Milo Yiannopoulo lecture at UC Berkeley the night before last, where somebody was beaten unconscious on camera, a woman was pepper sprayed on camera, kind of blindsided, a giant fire was started, lots of property was smashed, and hundreds of Black Bloc Antifa people generally had a really awesome and fun time. Because, as usual in liberal bubble echo chambers of cities, the cops apparently didn't really do anything. And why would they do anything? This was Berkeley, and if people are unfamiliar with the Bay Area, Berkeley borders Oakland, and Oakland has both one of the most massive social justice warrior, anarchist, and Antifa populations in the entire world, but also an exceedingly high crime rate. And so, occasionally, the social justice warriors end up rallying groups of rather rough individuals for protests that end up as riots in Oakland, or in the case of last night, in Berkeley. In case people are unaware, the Bay Area and Oakland more specifically was both the incubator and birthplace of the Black Lives Matter movement, though a lot of people are unaware of that. You see, what I think really inspired Black Lives Matter was the horribly unjust fatal shooting of unarmed Oscar Grant on New Year's Day of 2009 at the Fruitvale Bay Area Rapid Transit Station. Oscar Grant was shot by a police officer that worked exclusively for the train company while a train full of people watched, some of them with camera phones videotaping the shooting. Grant had merely been in a fist fight, and while the officer had him pinned on his stomach and in handcuffs behind his back, the officer pulled out a gun and shot him in the back, later claiming he reached for a taser and accidentally grabbed his gun. And this is footage you can watch for yourself. And so, the East Bay area of Oakland and probably Berkeley ignited into protests and probably riots. However, this was at the beginning of 2009, just after Obama's election, so I imagine that the media was unsure whether or not it would be a good idea to make a huge deal out of this excessive use of force from a police officer, as President George W. Bush was still in office and Obama's team had probably not begun to formulate which media narratives they would peddle during his presidency. I believe that this time discrepancy is why Black Lives Matter was started in 2012 after Obama's re-election, when the media decided for whatever reason to run with a giant cultural narrative that Black people are constantly being killed by police officers. And they started this narrative after unarmed Trayvon Martin was fatally shot by George Zimmerman in Florida, who was neither white nor a cop, and the shooting was also not caught on camera. Regardless, even before the Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman incident, police brutality was a major issue of activist organizing in the Bay Area. You see, there are dozens of nonprofit activist organizations in the Bay Area and countless professional activists. People move to the Bay Area from all around the world to fight the system. In this one specific area in the world, the Bay Area of Northern California, which is likely the most dedicated area in terms of fighting the system in the world, to the point where it is an actual industry. And so, the people in the Bay Area are always looking for a cause to protest over, generally. As in the case of Oscar Grant, the activist causes brewed up by the professional activists in the Bay Area start out as noble. The slaying of Oscar Grant was certifiably unjustified, and everybody knew that. However, eventually, more and more people jump on any given bandwagon and the message gets diluted, as well as numerous questionable or false alarms that end up happening which spawn protests. Because for professional activists and their social circles, protests are fun and they get off on them. One of these questionable alarms was the George Zimmerman verdict in Florida, where state law in Florida decided that Zimmerman was in his legal right to defend himself against Trayvon Martin, who they ruled had been attacking him. Regardless of whether that was true or not, people in the Bay Area, and other places for that matter, used the Zimmerman verdict as an excuse to blame white supremacy and police officers for killing Black people, even though, again, George Zimmerman was neither a cop nor a white person. And this brings me to the point of my story. A funny thing happens when the activists of Oakland and Berkeley decide that they need to start some civil unrest and cause a ruckus, which is that commonly the upper middle class students and nonprofit workers rally a bunch of people to hit the streets, eventually inspiring roaming masses of citizens of a more rough breed to come along for the ride, which I mentioned before. Some of these people might have known about the Zimmerman verdict. Some of them probably didn't, and some of them didn't really care either way and just wanted to smash stuff. And smash stuff they did. Some of these protesters even ended up smashing the windows of a non-profit youth radio station center in Oakland, as well as a small independent restaurant called Dogwood. And so, when we know that this is the mentality of protesters in Oakland and Berkeley, and that this was happening all the way back almost 4 years ago in the Bay Area, is it any wonder that Milo Yiannopoulos' event was violently protested? That people were beat unconscious on camera? That the woman was pepper sprayed on camera? And that a mob of people pulled down the fence and began destroying school property? Is this a surprise? Furthermore, is it any wonder that the police didn't really do anything? They know that if they arrest people or use force, there will probably be protests the next night because of all the people who were supposedly wrongfully arrested and tear gassed for no reason by the violent, oppressive police. These people think that Milo is literally a Nazi, remember, and good luck explaining to them that he isn't. If the protesters in the Bay Area have a history of being so intent on smashing things that they will smash non-profit youth radio centers for legitimately disadvantaged and poor people in Oakland, which undoubtedly give opportunities for poor young black teenagers to gain technical audio experience that they can use to better their lives in the way that these protesters claim to want for these kids. If that is the type of thing that they do, and remember, these people are smashing the radio center because some non-police officer Latino guy in Florida shot a teenager who he said was attacking him with no witnesses around. Well, if the protesters of Berkeley and Oakland behaved in that way, why on earth would they not violently protest Milo Yiannopoulos, who is against Black Lives Matter and they think is a Nazi? Good luck talking these people out of it. That's all I have to say about this issue. Drop me a comment and stay tuned.